Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, July 24th, 2026. The FAIRtax, the answer hiding in plain sight. Dr. Frank Luntz's new polling paints a troubling picture of America. 70% of voters say the economic system is unfair. 55% say they're falling behind financially, and 38%, the highest since 2009, say they want more socialism and less capitalism. The frustration is real, but the prescription being pushed, wealth taxes and punishing the successful, would make things worse. There is a better answer, and it's been sitting in Congress since 1999. It's called the FAIRtax. Currently introduced as H.R. 25, the FAIRtax Act of 2025, the proposal would abolish the IRS and replace individual income taxes, payroll taxes, estate and gift taxes, and corporate income taxes, all with a single 23% national retail sales tax on new goods and services. In one stroke, the FAIRtax eliminates the complexity, the loopholes, and the hidden manipulation that's making Americans so angry. Luntz found that 37% of voters believe the wealthy don't pay their fair share. They're correct, and they should be angry. The current tax code is riddled with deductions, shelters, and loopholes obtained through D.C. lobbyists and donations to members of Congress. All these manipulations of the income tax code disproportionately benefit those who can afford the best tax advisors and who can afford to make the largest political contributions. Many of the wealthy fund their lifestyles with borrowed money. They get loans against their assets at rates that the rest of us could never obtain. Under current tax law, the proceeds from a loan are not considered income and therefore incur no tax liability. Now, if they were to sell their assets at a profit, they would owe capital gains tax on that profit. But borrowing against their assets rather than selling them lets the wealthy keep their assets while supplying them with non-taxable dollars. If the assets appreciate at a rate that exceeds the loan interest rate, which is almost always the case, then this borrowing strategy lets the wealthy increase their wealth in a way that legally avoids paying any income tax. The FAIRtax eliminates all of that. Unlike the income payroll tax system, you can't escape taxation by living on borrowed money. No matter how you get your money, you'll pay the FAIRtax when you spend your money on new retail goods and services. A billionaire buying $1 million yacht and a middle-class family buying a $40,000 new car will pay the same percentage on their purchases, but the net effective tax rate is not the same. Now, many say a sales tax is regressive because lower-income people spend a higher percentage of their income than higher-income people do. Now, that would be true if you taxed every dollar that everyone spends, but the FAIRtax doesn't do that. The FAIRtax makes the sales tax progressive. Every registered household receives a monthly prebate check. Now, that's actually a tax rebate equal to the amount of FAIRtax paid on spending up to the federal poverty level. This effectively means that no one pays the FAIRtax on their basic necessities. Spend right at the poverty level, and your effective FAIRtax rate is zero. Beyond that, the more you spend, the more money you take out of your own pocket to pay the FAIRtax. With the FAIRtax, workers keep 100% of their paychecks. There's no withholding, no federal payroll taxes. And those payroll taxes are what hit low-income earners the hardest. They eat up 7.65% of every dollar a worker earns. There's no standard deduction, and everyone pays the same rate regardless of how much or how little they earn. Now, Luntz found that 59% of Americans believe the dream is less attainable today than it was when they grew up. Now, the FAIRtax addresses this by taxing consumption, not income. The FAIRtax eliminates corporate income taxes. This dramatically reduces the cost of doing business and will put downward pressure on prices. The FAIRtax incentivizes businesses to invest, hire, and produce in America, driving job creation and wage growth. It rewards saving and investment, the building blocks of upward mobility, since unspent income is never taxed. The fair tax eliminates the subsidies now given to imported goods that give them a huge advantage in competing with U.S.-produced goods on the world market. It taxes the underground economy, criminals and those evading taxes by working for cash under the table. The fair tax taxes undocumented workers, broadening the tax base and reducing the burden on everyone else. It grows the economy at a faster rate than the income payroll tax system, and it immediately ensures that Social Security will be solvent for the coming years and reduces the national debt by $3 trillion. Luntz noted voters are fed up with Washington waste and fraud. The fair tax doesn't just trim the IRS, it eliminates it, replacing the thousands of pages of U.S. tax code with a transparent, simple system administered at the state level. No more politically connected loopholes, no more K Street lobbyists writing exemptions for their clients, just a single, visible tax that every American can easily understand. The anger that Luntz documented is justified, but the solution is not punishing success. It's building a tax system that's transparent, simple, and truly equal. The fair tax delivers exactly that. In conclusion, people are upset with our present income payroll tax system because it benefits only a small percentage of the population, that being the very wealthy and the members of Congress who fund their re-election campaigns by selling favorable tax treatment to the highest bidder. For the rest of us, it's an expensive, intrusive, incomprehensible mess that none of us fully understands. The fair tax is the answer. The Fair Tax Act, H.R. 25, is more than just a proposal for a retail sales tax. It's a fundamental restructuring of the federal fiscal structure. Unlike other excise taxes, which normally are applied to specific products and in different percentage amounts, the fair tax applies a 23% inclusive rate to all new retail products and retail services. The fair tax is a national retail sales tax on new retail goods and retail services. It provides a family credit so that all purchases up to the poverty level for each family are not taxed. There's no withholding from your paycheck, and you never have to file a tax return telling the government how much you earned and how much you spent. Plus, you'll never be harassed by the IRS ever again because the fair tax abolishes the IRS. Now, many of you have labored tirelessly for freedom from the federal income tax and the IRS. You deserve a great deal of credit for your efforts to educate the American people on the need to fund the American government in a way that's good for America and returns freedom to the American people. It's imperative, though, that we don't replace the current income tax and the IRS with an alternative system that could still be manipulated by the ruling elite. We must let Congress and the President know that the best way to replace the income tax and the IRS is with the fair tax. Now, make no mistake about it. The fair tax is a grave threat to the ruling elites. It will strip them of their power and their ability to control us through the tax system. Their opposition to the fair tax will be fierce and unrelenting. And don't think for an instant they won't use half-truths, deception, and downright lies in their desperate attempts to hang on to their power. However, with the support of this president, we can finally eliminate the income tax and the IRS. Of course, the best course of action is not only to repeal the income tax and abolish the IRS, but to repeal the 16th Amendment as well, so no future administration can ever shackle the American people with an income tax again. We must come together and ensure that real tax reform, the fair tax, is not subverted by the elites in D.C. This will take the diligent effort from all of us. We need your financial assistance and we need your grassroots assistance. Now, if you have contacts that will allow us to get more information about the fair tax to President Trump, please let us know. Please email us at info@fairtax.org and we'll give you some options on how you can best help us. At a minimum, please call your congressional representatives and ask if he or she supports the fair tax. If so, thank him or her for their support and suggest they become a co-sponsor of H.R. 25 if they're not one already. If not, ask why not. Now, if your representative claims to be unfamiliar with the fair tax, offer to have someone come to their office and explain it to them. The solution? Pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to FAIRtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.